On this edition of Motorcycle Experience, we continue to cafe a V-twin cruiser and lay down some paint in front of a live audience. In the land of Wild Bill and General Custer, we encounter a standoff. Ducking for cover, we try to stay visible out on the open road and wait our pegs when the pavement turns twisty. As Motovan presents Motorcycle Experience. Hello and welcome to Motorcycle Experience, the voice of motorcyclists everywhere. I'm Dave Hatch, and this week we're coming to you from Brooklyn Cycle Racing in Pickering, Ontario, where we're shooting some upcoming features with Rob Egan. As for our show this week, let's check out BMW's F800 GT. This sport touring road eater rounds out BMW's mid-range lineup, now sharing the road with the adventurous F800 GS and the naked roadster, the F800R. Like its brothers, the GT sports the same liquid-cooled 798cc fuel-injected parallel twin, mated to a slick 6-speed tranny and belt final drive. Under the fairing is a lightweight cast aluminum frame sporting a 43mm fork matched with a very nice pair of ABS-assisted 320mm floating discs. Bolstering the cast aluminum parts list is the rear swing arm and wheels. The GT's windscreen is adjustable, so too the saddle, which can be set to 3 different seat heights. The GT even has optional ESA, electronic suspension adjustment. Very nice indeed. Sampling the F800 for us this week is longtime viewer and Suzuki V-Strom 650 owner, Jeff Kay. F800 GT, Grand Touring, Sport Touring, a little bit of luggage, windshield, some fairing coverage. Let's hit the road. What did you think when you first tried this out?
You know what? This is a great bike. As I've always said, BMW doesn't make a bad bike. This is another example. I think you said that it's a frame and a motor that has variations.
Yeah.
This is the latest iteration. It's a sport touring model. I would have to say that it tends more towards the sport than the touring, but having said that, it's very user-friendly. I think this is a bike that almost everyone could ride with a good degree of pleasure. Right.
That power plant, they use it in a bunch of different models. It's fuel efficient, it's got some vibration to it and a bit of character, but when you get up on the highway, it's smooth, right?
Yes, it's smooth. You know, you get it on the highway if you need to grab a handful of throttle to pass some trucks, it's there. Likewise in the city, you know, pretty well no matter where you are in the gear selection, it's very usable power.
How did you like the stopping?
Well, the first time I grabbed a handful of front brake, I almost went over the bars. I mean, the Brembo twin discs are just unbelievably effective. I mean, you know, it's one finger stopping, no matter how much deceleration you need. So
it's set up with a really nice fairing and you know, quite a large fairing given what we're seeing in terms of trends these days. Wide handlebars. What's the riding position like for you?
Well, it's interesting. Your legs are in a quasi-racing position. Your knees are at much better than 90 degrees. Not uncomfortable, but it is a low seat. And the tank, you know, you've got the tank at about chest level here. It feels like it's a very aggressive forward position. I don't think it actually is, although you think that you're hunched over and ready for the track. But if you catch yourself in a window at a stoplight, you think, well, I'm not really leaning over that much. I'm 6 feet tall, about the same size, and sitting on this bike, you are getting the wind in the full in the face with the helmet and the shoulders and chest. You can feel it. You know, the only time you're really out of the wind is if you're doing like a full Danny Pedrosa, you know, tucked down behind the windscreen.
How did you find just the overall fit and finish of the machine?
Well, it's beautiful. It's got some really nice touches. You know, the way the bodywork comes around. You've got these accents here with the black. The bags, the cases on the back, pretty ingenious. You know, you turn the key one way, you pop the button, it falls open. Same with the top cases.
Yep.
Because I think this is really very much a sport bike, you know, you might want to consider taking the cases off in the pit lane, filling them with ice and beer, and then using them as coolers after you've done hot laps on this thing. Because this bike, I'll tell you what, you could take this thing out on the track and you could do laps. You could do hot laps and chase the R6s around on this thing. It's nimble, it's fast, and it's really the kind of bike that you want to go on it. It's not a coast-to-coast bike. It's a you know, sporty with the option for the touring. But I think this would be a terrific sort of entry-level sport touring bike for someone who maybe started out with the sport bikes and wanted to get into the longer distance touring. That would be my thought.
Nice job, Jeff.
Pleasure as always.
Great job. Hang in there. There's plenty more experience still ahead. Next, Norm and I head to Mount Rushmore, while world-famous airbrush artist David Arrigo goes coast to coast. Stay with us. Portions of Motorcycle Experience are brought to you in part by Harley-Davidson, BMW Motorrad, and Triumph Motorcycles. Closed captioning of this program is brought to you by Honda Canada. Welcome back as Motovan presents The Experience. I'm Dave Hatch, and it's time now to catch up with airbrush artist David Arrigo as he wraps up his first day at the Toronto Motorcycle Show. But before we do that, let's get on with this season's ultimate ride as Norm and I head out to Mount Rushmore. So as I mentioned last week, for this year's two-wheeled getaway, Norm Wells and myself decided it was time to do the whole South Dakota scene. You know, Sturgis, the Black Hills, Mount Rushmore, a destination rich in late 19th century American history. Amazing scenery, monuments, and historical sites. For this trip, we picked up a couple of bimmers in the tiny town of Sturgis, and then headed west, checking into a small hotel in the outlaw town of Deadwood. The next morning found us riding south. Destination, Mount Rushmore. Our spirits were running high as we stopped at a local tourist attraction, Boondocks, for a couple of quick photos and a few laughs. After all, what could go wrong on this perfect warm and sunny day? We were in no hurry. I mean, it's not like they can close a national park, right? Well, I think this is the ultimate reality show, you know, and we don't fake anything here. We set out this morning to go see the Mount Rushmore Monument, and guess what? There's a strike.
Strike, it's actual government shutdown.
Yeah,
it's quite a surprise when we came around the corner and they were putting out cones, and at first I thought it was just, you know, workers. Turns out they had guns, and they were pretty serious folks.
Yeah, those were the yogis, and there was no stopping. But we did manage to pull over, grab a few snapshots, and we did actually see Mount Rushmore.
in a very rushed manner.
Before being told to move along. So we're just outside the park, and we thought we'd pull over and just tell you that it is worth the ride. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that was just amazing seeing that. And we were talking about it earlier. You know, they started that in 1927 and worked for 14 years on the thing. And this is back before there was any kind of real mechanical equipment to do this. You know, they were just hanging on ropes and banging away with chisels, and it's impressive.
Yep. So it's certainly worth the ride, and the road down here, this 244, fantastic.
Yeah, you know, very similar to the 385, because even the 385 out of Deadwood was very cool. Then it got kind of long and straight, like we mentioned, would be a couple of those. Then it tightened up again as we got closer. And then obviously 244, we started changing the landscape. It wasn't as much forest, but now there's all this rock that's kind of sticking out of the ground. So very cool roads.
Lots of scenery. Definitely bring your camera along for this one. And the temperature change, holy smokes. This morning we started out, it was very cold. I think it was about 6 degrees Celsius. 4 degrees Celsius. So we've been layered up, layered down. Now it's almost 16 degrees. So it's quite pleasant. But yeah, you definitely need a few layers if you're going to come down here in the fall.
Absolutely, yeah.
So what's the plan from here?
Well, a little bit of a change of plan. You know, the idea was to go down 16 and get up to 87. So I think we'll backtrack now get to 87, ride the Needles Highway,
Right.
maybe make our way to Custer for lunch, Custer City for lunch, and then afterwards go up and see the Crazy Horse Memorial, which is a private memorial, so we'll be able to get into that one.
Hopefully no stoppages there.
And make our way back up, and I was noticing on the map here, there's on the east side of 385, there's some pretty cool little black roads here, so maybe we'll just explore a little bit this afternoon and see where that takes us back into Deadwood.
Awesome. Okay, well, one way or the other, we did get to see Mount Rushmore. Just don't stop on the side of the road. Anyway, it's been a great ultimate ride, and let's go check out the Needles.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Be sure to tune in next week as this ultimate ride down in South Dakota continues. Meanwhile, here at Motorcycle Experience, we're turning 25 this year, while Honda Canada is celebrating another milestone. The Goldwing is turning 40. So as a fun way to mark both occasions, we approached world-renowned artist David Arrigo and asked him to create for us a very special coast-to-coast Honda Goldwing F6B. David started the project in his studio north of Toronto, but once we saw how cool it was to watch his work come to life, we asked him if he would consider painting the rest of the bike on site in our booth at the Toronto Motorcycle Show. Let's check in with David now, midway through day one.
So here we are, everything's going very well. We're approximately, I'd say about a good 3 hours into the first piece. It's day one, of course, of the Toronto Motorcycle Show and having a great time already. The piece of the bike I'm working on right now is the saddle bag on the right side. The theme of the whole project is Canada coast to coast. And we thought in collaboration that it'd be a great idea to celebrate Canada from the mountains over to, of course, the East Coast with the water and the lighthouse, in which the piece I'll be painting very shortly. The reason why I picked these images particularly for this side by was because of the mountain region is representative of the West Coast, and having the Goldwings in the background sort of blurred out, driving into the foreground, and everybody loves coyotes, you know, unless you're, of course, a farmer with a hen house. But saying that, you know, we wanted something that would capture people's interest as they're walking by, as opposed to just having some straight lines and that sort of thing. It would be a lot more fun with our furry friends. I've been working on this particular piece for about 3 hours now. It's still probably about another hour in. I'm very much on time right now, and it's great too because people are stopping by, interacting, and that's what this whole live mural experience is all about. And it's drawing a lot of great interest and some great comments so far. And any negative comments I haven't heard or I won't listen to anyways. A lot of people ask me what it's like to work in front of the public. At first, when I started doing this years ago, it was quite nerve-wracking to say the least. But right now, I think as I have my art down, I actually have the interaction with people down as well. When I'm doing events such as Super Bowl or the All-Star Games, you're talking about tens of thousands of people coming through and asking the same question usually, "What you doing, mister?" And I say, "Painting." But outside of that, you know, I'm just so used to it, and it's almost like a high that I run off of. This is my fuel, is the interaction with the fans. Right now, I don't feel pressured. I've got at least another hour into this piece. Unfortunately, I've only allowed myself a half hour in order to get to the other pieces and in order to get this completed by the due date. You know, hair on the back of the neck is standing on end a little bit, but I'm confident I'll get it done. There are a lot of people, you know, depending on me getting this done.
Now keep the rubber side down because there's still plenty more experience around the bend. Next, we'll fire up Project Lightning Bolt and weight the pegs with riding instructor Clinton Smout. Welcome back to Motorcycle Experience. I'm Dave Hatch. It's time now to head up to Barrie, Ontario and catch up with professional riding instructor Clinton Smout. But before we do that, let's head up to the front end of Brooklyn Cycle here and see what Rob's up to with that Yamaha Bolt. So Rob, this week on Project Lightning Bolt, we're looking at the front end of the motorcycle project. And as we discussed right at the very beginning, you said you were going to swap out the stock fork for this R1 fork. Now,
Exactly.
First of all, why are we swapping forks?
Well, for a cafe racer, we want to have something that's that has more brakes, better handling, and so on. So we opted for the R1 because it's got the big brakes, it's got the radial mount brakes, it's got the big rotors, and we're able to put good rubber on it with stickier rubber, I should say, with the 17-inch front wheel. So.
Right. So the Stalker, it's got a 19-inch front wheel. Is it a matter of just unbolting the fork and swapping?
It's a little tricky. We got lucky on one spot where we're able to take the steering stem that's on this bike here is actually the same size as the steering stem on the R1.
Right.
So we're going to be able to press that one out and hopefully press it into this front end. That'll make the length is going to be right, the bearings are all going to fit, so it's going to make life a little easier that way.
So in that aspect, it is a little bit of a bolt-on.
That part of it.
That part is. What about the height of the bike? This doesn't quite look as though it's as long as that.
It's a fair bit different. We're going to raise the rear end up again so we can get some ground clearance. So that's where we have to match the front end up with that.
Right.
The Bolt front end is about 2 inches longer than the R1 front end, and the fact that we're raising it up means we're going to have to extend this front end.
Okay.
So what we've decided to do is we're going to build a slug to extend this fork tube out to the desired length. And what we'll have to do is we have to remove the peened lock screw on the back there, heat this up, sweat it out so that it'll actually release itself and be able to unscrew it off of this lower leg. So that's a bit of work.
Are you doing anything from the catalog with regards to the front end?
Yeah, well, Yamaha gave us full access to all that stuff, which was kind of nice, but the fact that this is a cruiser, most of the parts are cruiser parts, which
right.
We didn't think we were going to apply to this bike, but what we did find was they have braided clutch cables, braided throttle cables, braided brake lines, which we might not be able to use because of our configuration, but they have those, and they also have this kind of cool little bullet fairing, which is going to match up pretty nice on our project, I think. So we're going to keep the standard headlight, and this is going to fit on perfect. Other than the fact our forks are a little different, so we're going to have to modify that, but that's after we get all through this is going to be the easy part.
Okay, so more modification.
More modifications.
As we go.
Exactly.
Okay, well, I'm very excited to come back next week and see how this all comes together.
Hopefully we're moving ahead.
Looks good. Well, everything with Project Lightning Bolt appears to be going smoothly, but you know how renovations go. Something always pops up. In the meantime, let's catch up with our old friend Clinton Smout, Chief Instructor with the SMART programs, one of the best off-road riding academies in Canada. Today we're getting a lesson in steering with your feet. So Clinton, this week on Shifting Gears, we want to talk about peg steering, and most motorcyclists know you can steer in some manner, shape, or form with the pegs of your motorcycles. Car drivers may not know that because they're used to a steering wheel, but we can actually lean a motorcycle, right?
Absolutely. When we talk about it, I use an analogy that Canadian national champion Michel Mercier from Fast taught me.
Right.
If you were to take a bicycle and just roll it down the pavement, it's going to go pretty well straight until it loses momentum.
Right.
What Michel says is tie a brick or a motocross boot to the one pedal.
Yeah.
And then roll it down the road. Now what's going to happen?
Well, it's going to lean and turn in that direction with the weight, right?
Exactly. So
Yeah.
that helps the light bulb go off for most people figuring this peg steering. Then we ask them to just ride along slowly, take 1 foot off the peg so your hands are still on the bar. So you're leaning most of your weight onto the remaining boot. And what happens is the bike will change direction in the direction you're leaning.
Yeah.
The benefit is your center of gravity goes from your butt down to your feet, to
Right.
the pegs.
You're making the bike more stable.
Way better for getting through loose material like sand or gravel or over rough stuff.
Right. And then when you go to turn, you're just weighting that peg.
Exactly. So you do less with the handlebars. When standing, we steer with our feet.
Yeah.
Which sounds crazy, but it really works.
Can we apply this though to the street? Because clearly on the street, you know, for instance with that triple back there, we can't be hanging off in a corner, but can we be weighting the pegs as well on the street?
Absolutely. Peg weighting works on pavement as well. Definitely works.
Awesome. Some great advice there on weighting the pegs.
Cool.
Cool. Okay then, now that we've got you all fired up to hit the road, stay tuned because next, Chief Instructor Jen Martin has some great advice on the importance of being seen. And I don't mean out on the red carpet. Portions of Motorcycle Experience are brought to you in part by Harley-Davidson, BMW Motorrad, and Triumph Motorcycles. Welcome back as Motovan presents The Experience. I'm Dave Hatch, and now that we've got you all fired up to go for a ride, we'll wrap up our show by passing along some great advice on how to stay safe out on the open road. In this case, we're talking about the old adage, see and be seen. Take it away, Jennifer.
Jen, this week on Hitting the Road, we want to talk about visibility, both being visible yourself when you're out on the road so that other drivers and riders see you, but also looking ahead and seeing for yourself, you know, your kind of vision of what's up ahead. Do you talk about that when you're teaching the school?
For sure we do. I mean, your ultimate responsibility, it's your responsibility.
Yeah.
Lane position, that speaks volumes about how you ride. Make sure that you're in a position where other vehicles can see you. Scanning ahead, looking ahead to see the big picture. We always tell people look about 12 to 14 seconds ahead of the motorcycle, looking for potential problems. And then separate yourself from other vehicles. I mean, don't follow too close. You're following distance as well. And the other thing that you can do is make sure that people acknowledge that you're a human on this beautiful motorcycle. So other things that you can do is signals, your hand signals, if you don't think that someone can see the small signals.
Right, so get the arm out there, the hand up, right?
Even if they don't know what you're doing, they still see you.
You're getting their attention. Okay, so let's now talk about when the light changes, right? Sometimes you're out riding with a dark visor, sunny day, and then suddenly it's overcast or even nighttime. So always carry a spare clear visor?
Clear visor. Make sure your visor is clear of cracks and scratches and things like that.
Right. And then we want to be seen. That's very important. And a lot of rain suits, you know, sometimes it might rain, it gets a little cloudy. A lot of the rain suits in the past have been all black. They've got to look great, but I noticed this Conspicuity is what we're talking about, being seen. This is the kind of rain suit you like to use?
Yeah, you know what, bright colored, you've got the reflective stripes on it, so that's perfect in a rain gear as well, for sure, because the darkness, this is going to catch people's eyes.
Right.
And if you don't have that, then all the time, reflective vest right there.
We've started to see more and more of these on the road last 5 years. These are awesome. Daytime, nighttime, just really...
Anytime, yeah.
Really help you with being seen. Conspicuity. And I guess in terms of lighting, you know, this particular motorcycle has, you know, the very latest and greatest in terms of lighting and accessory lighting to give you more punch, more visibility. But LED lighting is now coming into its own as well, right? And you can replace your tail light, your headlights with LED lights. All good stuff?
All good stuff.
Excellent. So the key to success when you're hitting the road?
Conspicuity.
See and be seen.
That's right.
Awesome. Thank you.
Well, that's it for this week's program, folks. We're all out of time, but if you're looking for some more experience, be sure to go online right now, www.motorcycleexperience.ca for the after show. And then until next week, keep your feet on the pegs and your right hand cranked. Bye for now. Closed captioning of this program was brought to you by Honda Canada.
Hi, I'm Doug Decent from Indian Motorcycles, and congratulations, Dave, on 25 years of having fun in the business. I've known you right from the get-go, and you still got that passion for motorcycling and in the sport. So good luck, and let's go for another 25 years.